The Night of the Iguana is one of two movies I saw when I was a 12-year-old kid that first planted the idea in my head that it might be fun to be an actor. The other movie was The Outrage, and I thought what fun it must be to do that. The Night of the Iguana is a John Huston directed adaptation of the Tennessee Williams play. It stars Richard Burton, Ava Gardner, and Deborah Kerr. The Outrage is directed by Martin Ritt and is a Western adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. It stars Paul Newman, Claire Bloom, and Lawrence Harvey. In both The Night of the Iguana and The Outrage, Richard Burton and Paul Newman give highly theatrical performances. And I thought what fun it must be to do that. Oh, see, Carrasco's not the type of man to be made fun of, at least not by any gringo. Except, of course, when he's played by one. But I didn't care about such things back then, and nor do I now. I still love that movie. In The Night of the Iguana, Richard Burton plays a defrocked priest who now works for a low-rent tour company in Mexico. Grayson Hall plays Miss Fellows, who's chartered a tour for a group of middle-aged school teachers. She also acts as a chaperone for a rich young woman named Charlotte, who, as played by Sue Lyon of Lolita fame, wears hot pants both inside and out, and whom Miss Fellows secretly desires. When Charlotte tries to seduce Shannon, this sets off a battle of wills with Miss Fellows, who's determined to have Shannon fired. Drunk and half suicidal, Shannon hijacks the bus and its passengers and drives them up to a cliffside hotel. Ava Gardner plays Maxine, who is the recently widowed hotel owner. She also owns this movie. Her performance is earthy and naturalistic, and when she says, "Even I know the difference between loving someone and just going to bed with them," an essential truth was revealed to me at a pretty young age, and I never forgot it. Her Maxine is the soul of the movie, while Deborah Kerr's Miss Jokes is its heart. She's a New England spinster who travels the world with her ancient grandfather, who is working to finish what will be his last poem. They support themselves by giving recitations and selling sketch paintings. Meanwhile, Richard Burton's Reverend Lawrence T. Shannon is, in a way, the MacGuffin of the movie. By comforting him during a bad night when all of his demons are upon him, Maxine and Miss Jokes reveal themselves and the playwright's themes of human frailty and forgiveness. Richard Burton was heavily criticized for his performance in this movie, which was deemed to be over the top. Well, maybe so, but it sure was fun to watch. So is Richard Burton's performance over the top? Yes, it is, as is Paul Newman's Frito Bandito Mexican in The Outrage. But sometimes it's fun just to watch an actor grappling with the part, trying to make something of it. There's a famous story about Peter O'Toole at the beginning of The Lion in Winter, where he warns the cast to be on their mettle because he was determined to steal every scene. And he did. I think only Katharine Hepburn gave him a run for his money. As in both The Outrage and The Night of the Iguana, it's the women who steal the movie. Claire Bloom in The Outrage, and the double act of Ava Gardner and Deborah Kerr in The Night of the Iguana. And yes, once again I thought, what fun it must be to do that. The Night of the Iguana was my first Tennessee Williams, a lover's first kiss perhaps. Now, I've never liked A Streetcar Named Desire. Oh, I know, I'm very aware of its place in our cultural history, but it's a little too humid for me. And I've never cared for bullies. As for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, if it's on, I'll tune in just to see Elizabeth Taylor in a slip anytime. But when Madeline Sherwood and her kids start in, I'm out of there in a hurry. I've always liked Marlon Brando's opening monologue in The Fugitive Kind, Sidney Lumet's adaptation of Orpheus Descending, and Joanne Woodward's heavily mascaraed hip chick is interesting, but the whole thing goes up in flames by the end. As for Sweet Bird of Youth, I can't watch it anymore. It's too close to the bone. So The Night of the Iguana remains my favorite Tennessee Williams, and that's because it's got the most heart. The day I joined Actors Equity, and then later the Screen Actors Guild, were two of the proudest days of my life. And I thought, let the fun begin. And it did, only just not in the way I thought it would, or planned that it would, or even hoped that it would. I guess you could say I sort of got sidetracked.